Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Navigating the Unknown. It's our 16th episode, and this is actually our anniversary. So please congratulate us. I'm Andrea Stern of Stern Rep and Ask Stern Rep. In these webinars, we cover the topics that are challenging photographers. We are being challenged. Today, we will be dissecting the process of creating your treatment that will get you jobs. Phew. Let's hear from the pros on how to do this. We have my friend, Mary Dale, a big Leo, and we have ghost treatment writer. I don't know if that's what we really call you, Scott, but Scott.
Ghost, I like the sound of ghost.
You're a
ghost treatment writer. Yeah.
We are
Thanks
joined.
for having me.
Oh yeah. We are joined by my wonderful co-host, LA photographer and APA LA board member, Hugh Kretschmer. Hi, Hugh.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I can't believe it's been a year. So in 2 days, it'll be a year anniversary. It's just been so great to do this with you. I love what we've been able to shape together and bring to our audience, and so much great information. And I really appreciate our esteemed guests for showing up. Thank you so much. It's a big subject. Strap in, it's going to be great. So back to you, Andrea. Thanks.
Thank you all for being here today. And that's everybody, attendees and my wonderful guests, everybody. We are here to help you as we are going to sink our teeth into this intimidating process called treatments. Mary Dale is the founder and creative director of Big Leo Productions, established in 2003. An agency representing a constellation of visual creators with expertise ranging from food, interiors, lifestyle, hospitality, and beauty. Profoundly influenced by her tenure at Martha Stewart Living Omnimedia as photography editor, she has spent years cultivating a stellar roster of talent, continually evolving with client needs and adapting to new markets. You go, Mary.
Thank you.
Scott Rickles, our writer of treatments, is studied theater at undergrad at TCU in Fort Worth, Texas, and attended USC's School of Cinematic Arts for graduate school. He spent a decade working in all areas of film and commercial production before becoming a full-time freelance writer 6 years ago. He mostly specializes in comedy and has completely lost track of how many treatments, scripts, and punch-ups he's written. The work includes numerous award-winning campaigns for brands such as Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Geico, Coca-Cola, State Farm, PlayStation, Xbox, Disney, and every car company out there. He works with directors, photographers, and production companies all over the world. And his Instagram, Scott Rickles, that's just your name.
I just kept it simple.
Not that active on social media, but people can hit him up on DM. So hi to both of you.
Hi.
Hello.
Attendees, you are a major part of this webinar. We mean it. We always want all your questions. Keep them coming in. Please put the questions in the Q&A area, not the chat room. Chat area. Remember to join Hugh and I at the end of this discussion because we like to stay on to have our own short wrap chat. And today we will have a special guest from our sponsor, Sammy's Camera, to give us an update how the pandemic has affected the photo equipment market. That should be interesting too. So hang on with us for that. Let's dive in. All right, I'm going to start with questions, but everybody bring your questions in, send them in. It's time we all accept how important the treatment is to help book the job. I've called in the pros today and we will figure it out how to build a strong one. Scott, I have to start with you. I have to share how I know you because I was temp repping with great photographer, Chris McPherson. And I got his treatment for the job we were bidding on. I was like, wow, this is great. You wrote this? And he said, no, I hired Scott Rickles. I was like, oh, this is what we all need.
That's because Chris is a really nice guy. Yeah, he gave me some credit. That's no. Yeah, I love Chris. I've worked with him a few times. And yeah, that's how we met, and just going back and forth, making that treatment even better. So yeah, I'm glad he liked it, and glad you liked it as well.
And then Mary, we have been checking in with Tracy of Poppy Creative as well, also on a weekly basis all throughout COVID for a year, over a year.
A year.
We've created a friendship. Having rep friends is pretty special to me. I've been witnessing your design savvy mixed with your overall brilliant business strategy. And I can tell how much you care about the art of the treatment. So you actually created one for us to share today. That's pretty crazy.
I did. Well, it is a dummy one. And the reason is because, and you'll see when I get to a certain page, there are certain things that I know photographers put in their treatments that I understand why they would deem it proprietary. And I know photographers are very timid to share their treatment.
And that's a big issue. That's one of the big issues. How do we see these? How do we know what anyone else is doing when no one shares them?
No, absolutely. Yeah, I got a big wash of sunshine just now too. Yeah, I did create a dummy one, which I can try to share with you. You want me to go ahead and share that now?
Let me ask a few questions, then we'll share.
Yeah, I think some questions will give it a good launch point.
Exactly. I think we all understand that clients want to see the photographer's vision for the project, but what does that really mean? Why do we think the clients want a treatment from us? What do you guys think?
Well, I think a client wants to have confidence that you understand how to approach their creative, whether that's providing appropriate images or even just your lighting schematic, like the way you approach the shoot, just that you get what they're going for. Sometimes you have a client that gives you a full brief, and your treatment should be a response to that. And sometimes you don't get a brief at all. Sometimes it's just an email with, this is how many shots I need, this is what I'm going for. So your treatment is in some ways giving them parameters in which you're going to approach this project and shoot it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's always, I mean, the treatment is how you are going to treat the creative, just very literally, and then how you're going to bring your vision to it, how you're going to achieve what they need. And yeah, like you said, giving them the confidence that you know how to do it, and bring kind of that extra bit of magic that, they sought you out for in the first place, what you do, the artistry that you bring to it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of photographers' reaction to this is, what? Look at my portfolio. Look at my website. It's there. Why is that not enough?
I mean, I think for a couple of reasons. I mean, I think that, again, there's an approach to their specific work that they want to have confidence in, because having a great portfolio, they have no idea how you captured those things. It can be beautiful work, but I think this gives them a little bit of a behind the scenes of the way you work, who you actually are. Even it's why, having the bio and things like that both on your site and in this treatment, and speaking a little bit about yourself and the way you work, I think it's important. It's just another way to set you apart from, several portfolios that they might be looking at. This treatment gives them a deep dive into you and your thought process as it relates to their specific creative.
Yeah, I think, it's all, go ahead.
I'm just thinking, it's just like there's an opportunity to share my personality and, the way my workflow and the way I think, so it is a bit of a signature on the way I'm going to handle this particular job. Anyway, I'm sorry for interrupting, Scott. Go ahead.
No, that was exactly what I was going to get at. It's your personal kind of like philosophy as it applies to their specific creative, how you approach it, how you're going to execute it. And I think, it's all about kind of letting them get to know you even better, and your personality, and how you did the things that they responded to in the first place, giving them that little peek behind the scenes.
So I have one other question for Scott, because this is all part of this. Is, as a ghostwriter though, how do you, in order to get that personality through your writing, do you have your clients take a crack at the treatment first, and then you go in and noodle it, or do you collaborate together
I work a lot of different ways, and that's usually one of the first questions I ask them is like kind of how have you worked with somebody before? How do you work best? But most of the time it is I'm listening to kind of the phone call that they've recorded from the creative brief. I've looked over everything. If they have other treatments that they've written before or that they think are good, represent kind of their voice a little bit, I always look at those and try to match that. So yeah, as a ghostwriter, it's definitely trying to match the voice, bring all that sort of just technical information and make it entertaining and just make it fit to like how they talk and how that conversation went on the call. A lot of it is so much I think I information I get from that initial phone call, just the tone, the overall tone of the conversation that I can bring to the treatment just to kind of continue that. Because usually they do have like really good phone calls, and then it's kind of like, well, I just like dive right into this, and it just feels like an extension of that conversation.
Oh, that's a dream.
Fabulous.
I
That's great.
always look for the purpose being, who's the photographer going to be on the set? They have to show they are the director. They're the leader. They have this. Don't worry, client. You're in good hands. So my question for Scott, is that your goal? Like, what's your overall goal with the words?
I think that's part of the goal, and I think that just comes from kind of speaking with clarity and authority on it and how you're going to achieve it. I think that all kind of comes through. Sometimes I will get really specific with how they like to run a set, because sometimes that is the difference between kind of the execution. It's like a lot of times the pitches that they get back, it's like it can be very similar. Everybody's trying to achieve something very similar, but it's working with that specific photographer or director or whoever. It's what they bring to the set. It's how they run it, the environment, the mood that they create, and all of that goes into the images that they capture. And that's kind of that peek behind the scenes, and just kind of articulating that on the page that gets people excited about working with a photographer.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was so well said. Oh, Mary, what do you see as the overall function of the layout of the treatment?
Well, I mean, I think the layout, because this is, look, we're all visual people. This thing is meant to show your work, of course. I think the layout is to really give the overall treatment a good framework that blends into the background. It doesn't have to be too showy. Obviously, you're not here to get a graphic design job. But that said, I do think that the layout has to be cohesive throughout. You got to pick a font, stick with it, pick a couple of colors, stick with it. Don't go nuts. I just think it needs to be cohesive throughout so that it doesn't overshadow what you're trying to say and the images you're presenting. Yeah, I mean, I just happen to, we're pretty design savvy in our agency, but at the same time, that's not what we're here to do. But it should just sort of blend in the background and become, complement the images and the words you're trying to say. If it's all over the place, it'll get noticed.
So
Is
well
your brand identity involved in this when, as
Oh,
far
yeah.
as, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, goes back to, again, we're not designers, but we do want all of our artists to have some semblance of good, solid branding, whether it's a logo, a color palette, some complementary fonts, and to pepper that throughout. That might contradict what we will talk about in a bit about adapting to the client's creative within your brief, because you also, talking about successful treatments, I think one of the questions was seeing a treatment that won or lost a job. And I have seen people completely adopt a client's branding in their deck, and it's pretty brilliant. But you also want to have your own brand identity too, and just have some framework for these treatments. I'm pretty fascinated by what Scott does, because I just feel like another question that came up about a photographer being on set, not being able to do a treatment, and having someone like Scott write these things. For me as a rep, I like this question because we can help with treatments, but this voice is singularly the artist's approach. So I can't do a treatment start to finish. We can certainly help, but I think if they have a framework and a good template and those things built in, it's much easier for us to help with those. But ultimately, I think there has to be some investment made on the front end of just getting the framework together, knowing your approach generally, so that when you do have to deep dive into these individual, creative asks, you can just plug it in. But yeah, Scott, brilliant. what you do.
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, that's always the trick because, it's like, especially, I work with lots of directors and they're just busy all the time. And that's the reason that I'm working with them, is just because they're on set. And, and a lot of the times it's, 10-minute phone calls or, text messages or emails. There's some directors that I work with that it's only email. And it's just, I don't know, I've built a lot of experience in just writing, and just doing it and being able to adapt to different voices and things like that. So I think that eases the process a lot. But I always approach it with, like, if I can get it 80% of the way there, like on my first pass that I share with them, I'm feeling very good about that. But there's always, some back and forth that needs to happen, or sometimes they take the words and kind of do their own quick pass, but it's the difference between spending an hour on something versus, 10, 12 hours. If I can do all the heavy lifting and then they can come in and do a polish, or give me notes and we can get it closer, like that's, I'm helping them, and, they keep me employed, and that's good. It's a good relationship.
Mm. We have a question from one of the great producers, Hannah Soto of Gray House Productions. She asks, how often are people having someone else write the treatment? And are artists using templates that make treatments similar? So how often are people writing the treatment? I guess, Scott, you wouldn't probably know that.
I mean, I don't hang out with a lot of treatment writers, but I stay pretty busy. I know that, it's a thing. I mean, I mostly work like in, live action, commercials and things like that. And it's very busy. And a lot of people do, but when I've done my job well, you wouldn't know that somebody else wrote it. And that's kind of, I really I really put in a lot of effort to make sure that I'm delivering something that feels like the director wrote it. There's very few like boilerplate, type things that I would ever insert into text, while that might speed up, the process a little bit. It's a lot of the times you just feel it, when you read it, and I can look at a treatment, I can look at probably the first paragraph on the first page and tell you, like, if a treatment writer wrote it, or if somebody kind of put some thought into it. So that's another trick, is like in a lot of directors and photographers, even if a treatment writer does do a lot of the heavy lifting, it's like writing the opening I would say is always the hardest thing, and kind of those first couple of pages are the most important. And so it is good to spend some time, if you're going to spend time on anything back and forth, if you're working with a treatment writer, sometimes it's make sure that you're putting some personality and personal touch into that opening. Definitely.
This question too about templates, and that's so interesting about the overall first part, but when treatments, how do you not make them look so similar when you have a template? That's a challenge.
Yeah, I think so. But I think, again, it's having some framework, in my opinion, and then adapting that to what you're presenting. Because again, you don't want to change, you don't want to uproot your branding every time you're doing something for a client, but you want to merge the two. Like, this is my photography brand, and here is what I want to do for your brand. So you're still peppering in, whether it's picking up their colors or something, you can still shift these things around. But I think you should have some framework to work with, so that you're not starting from scratch every time. I think that's the most daunting thing that I've found, is if I have to start from scratch every time a request comes in, you get stuck.
Yes.
Yeah. And I do have a structure sort of usually in mind, that all the sort of big picture things that I hit, in treatments. And then it's the same thing. I'll tailor it to the specific job, and, switch up different sections, and, just make it very specific to that job and personal. But yeah, a lot of it is kind of, invisible, moving things around.
Interesting. So let's
Is
start
it-
with Hugh.
Oh, I want to talk about those first 4 paragraphs, because I think I have a question for all of you. Is this a sales pitch? Is this a hard sell? Is it a soft sell? Is it a medium sell? Do you say things like, I'm the guy, or I'm the person for this job? And I agree with you, Scott, those first 4 paragraphs is like super important. So I just wanted to see if you could elaborate on that. a little bit?
Yeah, and that kind of depends, yeah, on the person, I would say, and the client and the, if it's an agency that you're working with, that you're pitching to. I would probably never say I'm the guy. Usually how I approach it is just getting, how do we get them excited about the thing, because a lot of times, especially like in commercials and things like that, like ad agencies, they've been looking at the same stuff for months and months and months, and it's like, and it's kind of a opportunity to kind of get back to the raw excitement of like why everybody got really pumped about this idea in the first place. Maybe how they got sold it through to the client, that sort of thing is kind of, it's like, whether that's talking about, that your goals for it or whatever, it's like you explain why you're excited about it, what drew you to it, and then how you guys are going to like take what they've done and make it even better. That's usually sort of just the broad strokes of it.
Yeah. Subtle.
Yeah, no, I agree. Even in the sample one that I made, I mean, almost everybody talks about the concepts they've been sent. And for us, it's, I'm so excited about your concepts. I can't wait to deep dive into my approach to this and just, yeah, complimenting them on their concept,
Yeah.
in that paragraph. Never I'm the guy, but I'd like to be the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are some where it just kind of depends on the approach that you're getting into it. And some we just start right into something personal, like a personal attachment. There is no sell on it. It's just diving into like, a personal story or something that hooks them. A lot of the stuff that I do is just like, storytelling, and how can we get it back to like feeling and emotion and like story, and like, and make it interesting for somebody to read it.
Yeah, I think you have to hook them in those first ones to hope they keep reading.
Yeah.
And is there a structure to like the way you should be laying out the information? Your intro, overall look, lighting, color, is there a template for that? Or is there,
Like an order
like an order to it?
I don't know if you have one, Scott, but we keep it pretty loose, but we start with an intro and with a thank you page. In between there, we're starting with, the approach. And again, I can show you in the sample we made, but it's just very general, like an approach, maybe some pre-production talks about how I dive into a project. I collaborate with you, the art director. We talk about X, Y, and Z.
Actually, Mary, since we're on this, why don't you take us there and show us?
Yeah, let me do that really quick. It's very loose, but what I did was, let me make this.
It'll help us with the topics.
Absolutely.
And I can ask a question while you're getting that.
Yep.
On our clubhouse yesterday that Hugh and I did, Megan Shipter, great photographer in Chicago, we talked about the different apps to use. She told us about creativemarket.com and Canva we know of. Any others, Mary, that you use?
Not for templates. I mean, we typically use Google Slides, Keynote, PowerPoint, all those things. And to Megan's point about Creative Market, there are templates for all of those available in a place like that. So yeah, I think all of those apps are perfect for that. It's finding the best place to share those things.
Right. So. Oh, hi.
Hi.
There's Loki. Here, let me share this with you guys really quick.
Yes, please.
All right, hang on. There we go. Let me know if you guys can see it. I'll make it big.
Yeah.
Can you guys see it this big?
Yes.
Nice.
All right, let me go back to the beginning because I started in, hang on. There we go. Page 1. Ooh. So essentially, what I did was I based this on, like, say, a cocktail client, because it's something we work with a lot. We work with a lot of food and beverage. And so I just created a dummy one for amazing photographer, for a rock star client, calling out their campaign, spring 2021 social media campaign, and today's date. So you start there so that they, see how you open this thing. Then it's a quick intro. I show a little client list. Something we like to do, it's like, hi, I'm an amazing photographer and I've been shooting this long. I'm excited about your creative concepts. And because it's cocktails, we put a little quote that's like, I've never met a cocktail I didn't like or a karaoke bar that I could resist. So just some fun, give you a little bit of personality.
That's all
And
right.
then thank you so much for considering me for your spring 2021 Rockstar client social media campaign. And what we also do is, if you notice on the right, I just call out relevant clients. It's like, here's my client list, but here's some more recent clients that are very similar to what we're going for. I've shot for these 4 people. Then I start with, say, an approach. And I don't know if you noticed, but there's a copyright, photographer name, and the year on the bottom of every page, because I've been asked before if your name should be on every page. It does not have to be, encroach upon every page, but if you minimally have a copyright symbol with your name, if they take anything out of the deck to show anybody, at least your name is on it. So
Got
I
it.
think it's important to have your name on every page somewhere. And that is
Right.
the most unintrusive way, in my opinion.
Wait, on the approach, where do you write the words? Around here, or is it just approach?
It would be, well, this is kind of a header. So on the next page, it would be starting your approach. So here's like your approach for pre-production. And I just wrote loosely, like, this is where you might explain how you dive into the creative, working closely with the agency team, et cetera, and your chosen stylists to set the tone and make the creative choices that align with the client's creative deck. So you're starting to sort of talk about, this is how I work. Then you're talking about the scope of work, where I feel like you should, or could, or should rather, reiterate the creative ask, such as the number of shots. This is new for me because I used to just address that in the estimates, but I think it's important to put this in the deck too. You can even highlight those things so that it's very clear. This is the number of shots that we've agreed to. This is how I'm approaching those shots. So the goal is to create 10 uniquely styled tabletop settings, etc., 3 siloed things, etc. So you talk about those and in your scope of work. So you're addressing that right away. Here you might address lighting and composition. Here's how I'm going to achieve this look you're going for. It could be anything from light and airy, hard shadows, moody, or otherwise, whatever the client's presented to you in your deck, and their deck rather, you're going to reciprocate in your own deck with your approach. You don't have to do a lighting schematic, just I've seen it done. We've done them before. Sometimes people might ask, but if you really want to hammer home that confidence, you could be like, hey, here's how I'm going to physically approach this. Then you might dive into like work samples that are similar. And this could get, this could be 4 pages, this could be 10 pages. You just don't want it to be too long, but just enough to sort of show the style of images that you're going for. And then you might say, hey, and here are the stylists I'd like for this. And I would do a single sheet for each one. Here's the food stylist I want. Here's the prop stylist I want. Links to their sites and maybe some of their relevant clients, that are relevant to this deck. And also
and their images.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So this would be a single page with like each stylist. So this is the food stylist. Here's some samples. Here's their site. Same thing with the prop stylist, and if there's a wardrobe stylist and so on. You might even include a page with your producer and their experience too, because we've done that as well. Mood boards, same thing. You can include relevant samples that don't, I've heard a lot, do you have to include, can you include images that are not your own? You can, if it is part of a mood board where you're saying, this is what we are going for. Well, my other friend is in the room. If this is part of the look you're going for, you can do that. So yes, I think you can use images that are not your own if it's very clear that it's a mood board. Same thing with casting and or talent. It just kind of showcasing this is the kind of talent. If you have talent in the shoot and you know what the client's looking for, you could put together a little mood board of this is the type of talent we're going to be looking for. Here's the casting director we're going to use, stuff like that. And then this is a little about page at the end that's about amazing photographer, a closing page sort of with your website. And then we close with like a thank you page, and that's, and you can speak to this, Scott, too. There's probably a lot more in between. You've got to really, let me find my mouse. You've got to really, fill those pages with what the client's asking for. But those are good ideas of like the headers, like the sections. And there's probably a lot more you could add for sure, especially if you're shooting motion. This is obviously for a still shoot. So
yeah, for still, yeah, for motion, it's kind of a whole other, a whole other beast. You're doing a lot more sort of narrative explanation, and there's a lot more to it. But the headers, the sections, breaking it down in a clear and concise way, but then adding like a little bit of personality and flavor to each one, so it's not just like yeah, here's the stylist that I want to use, they're great or whatever, something interesting, that like they're going to bring to it, or something that, the reason why you want them and you think that they're perfect for this brand. If you can put that in like a sentence or two, that's the kind of stuff that I try to do. Again, every page, just trying to get people excited about, what you're bringing to it, and really getting at sort of the why that you're saying the things that you're saying, the people that you're bringing together, why they're perfect for it, what they're going to bring to the table, why you like working with them, or what you respond to in their work, and that sort of thing.
Mary, that was so
good.
so good.
Yeah.
And the design element to me makes total sense because you kept it clean, which felt like the client. It felt like you're replicating what the client is going for in your design.
But that's what I think is important. As long as each page is cohesive and it all ties together, you're not as focused on the design as you are like just the feel of the overall deck, the whole treatment, and the images that are in it, because that, again, is what we're trying to sell.
I so agree. I'm
Yeah,
going to jump.
There is so much information in there, like I didn't even realize, like laying it out again. Yes, this is what we agreed upon, how many shots we're doing. I mean, that's genius. That's awesome.
The scope.
Yeah,
it's important because now we get so many clients who might not know. They just know that they need some lifestyle and some still life. And you're like, we kind of need to know how many in order to appropriately estimate at all. So I think addressing that in the treatment is also a good spot to do it in addition to the estimate.
So well done. I often do find photographers are great on a creative call. It's just natural. They're speaking out loud, and then they say unique words with a passionate tone. And then it's hard for them to find those same words later when they're writing it out. Any advice? How do they get back to those words?
I go back to recording that phone call, and even if you're not working with somebody, a treatment writer, I've worked off of, people that, oh yeah, we didn't record the call, and it really puts me as a writer at a huge disadvantage because I'm not able to read the room, or just listen into it. Like I do the same. I listen to a phone call and I'm just writing words, and I'm writing circling words that they emphasize, making sure that I hit those, in like specific sentences that the director might use, that I'm like, oh, that's genius or whatever. I can weave all of those back in. There was even one, he was a director that I worked with, and he just like could just roll with the and like I would just type, and almost like take dictation, but then I go back in and reshape it all into something that's more cohesive, that isn't just stream of conscious, but I think even if you're not working with a treatment writer, if your rep or some, your producer or whoever is recording that call and can give you notes, and these are the things that you said, these are the things that they seem to respond to, because I know it's hard sometimes to go back and listen to your own voice, and be objective about it without hating every fiber of your own being. But it's like, if you could get notes or have somebody dictate, have just dictation, and so you can go back and look at it and be like, oh yeah, I want to pull these things, I want to pull these phrases, they seem to really respond to this, and make sure you go back and hit those things again.
It is interesting you say that, because when you said earlier about recording the call, I wondered how many people would be open to that, because we're visual people. So writing is often so difficult. A lot of my artists have a hard time, when I want them to give me a bio, it's hard to write about yourself. And I understand that. I totally get it. But having someone, like you said, your rep, a stylist friend, somebody even interview you if you haven't recorded the call, because we are such conversational people, visually you're talking out loud and things come to you, and you sit down to write it all down, it just seems to escape your brain. And I think that, if you can get someone to interview you, those questions spark the creativity, and you can record that. Another thing that I do personally is I actually record myself. I do well when I pace and talk out loud. And if you can just record that and get it down, sometimes it comes out of you in a more organic, conversational way than when you're almost sitting down doing a term paper, and then it all goes away.
This is so valuable.
Yeah, 100%. And like, even when I was, studying screenwriting and playwriting and stuff like that, like learning how to make dialogue natural. You know, it was like, oh, just record a conversation and see how disjointed it is, and then make it a little bit more cohesive, add punctuation, you know, like give it a little more sentence structure, heighten it a little bit. And, you know, and then you can see like, well, this is how I really sound. And this is how I sound, but on paper, you know, and getting that to come through. I mean, that's my goal as a writer, is just like make the words on the page sound like the person.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that there are certain nuggets. I call them like golden nuggets. I hear it from the photographer on the call and I'm like, ooh, that was good. How do photographers know the nuggets? Like, to them, it's how they think, how they talk. It's not a nugget. Like, how, Scott, do you and I talked before this and you mentioned a few things. Do you
Yeah,
know what
I
I'm talking
mean,
about?
yeah, those things, they jump out at me like when I listen to a phone call or whatever. You know, it sparks, you know, you can hear it usually in the client that they're talking to. You know, it's things that kind of spark conversation or whatever. You could just, you can feel it, you know, like, oh, that was really good. That was really interesting. So I'm always writing those things down, and I'll write them down verbatim, you know, so that I can work them back into the text somehow. You know, so
But
it's,
how do
I think also,
photographers notice them, their own nuggets? How do they know
I think
when,
that's a good, I
oh,
mean, that's a
that
good
would be good
question.
for my treatment?
That might be a good question for Hugh. You know, I think probably a lot of it also comes from experience and explaining your process. That you start to have these like sort of defined ways that you explain what it is that you do.
Yeah, you know, my challenge is the creative call versus the treatment. I can articulate myself much better in writing. It might be because of the nature of my work, because it's very intricate and very involved and very detail oriented. Um, so, but I need, you know, but I do need someone in order. I'm explaining things to that detail. I might lose my client in lost in the minutia stuff. So I need someone to take a second look at it and say, you don't need to say all that, but you know, this is a better version that people can follow now. So, because in my head, it's very clear, but articulating it in words, I stand the chance of losing my audience if I'm getting too much into it. So, yeah.
Scott, on our call, you said, oh, can you hear me okay?
You're little.
Eeks.
There we go.
Damn.
Come on, keep going. You can do it,
Am I
Andrea.
back?
Yeah.
Am I back? Am I back?
Just a little choppy, but we can all hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
It's clear. Yeah.
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 Okay. Scott, you had said happy mistakes.
Yeah,
Never
and maybe not, you know,
Oh.
yeah, maybe
Can
not
you hear
so
me?
much mistakes. I think we were talking about just keeping it conversational, and not worrying so much about being super formal with like grammar, and you know, just making sure like sentences are just real, you know, punctuated correctly or whatever. It's like, as long as it, my thing is always just getting the voice, you know, like I've said, is, you know, so if it's not perfect, it feels more real, it feels more like the person, you know. It's like if I have run-on sentences, or, you know, just a very specific thing that the director says, or a way that they phrase things, you know, sometimes it's not, you know, how you would normally write it in a sentence. And those are the things that just make it more interesting to read and more authentic. Although, you know, somebody, you know, like an English teacher was reading it, they might freak out, but that's not the purpose of this document. The document is not supposed to be, you know, so technical to the point that it feels like you're reading a manual. You know, it's like you want to feel like you're talking to that person, you're hearing their thoughts, and you're hearing them with clarity. But, you know, it's like, but it's also fun to read, you know, and you're just like, you know, you're flowing with it a little bit.
Spontaneity.
Yeah, yeah, that it doesn't, yeah, it doesn't feel so formal, you know, because that, you know, if it's boring, yeah, you're, you know,
You'll lose them.
job. Yeah.
No, Scott, what if the photographer says to you, yeah, I'm going to do a moody light to bring out the serious drama of the talent holding the product? What does that bring up for you to dig more of? So you hear what they're trying to get.
Yeah, and sometimes, it's like it is so like literal, like this is, yeah, moody lighting to like showcase the product or whatever. And my goal with that would just be to kind of get at the feeling, what is the feeling, it's like make sure you hit all the very specific like technical things that they need to do or that they want to achieve, but also like, well, why, why moody lighting, what does that mean, what's the story, what is that image, what's the story that image is telling or the feeling that it's evoking, it's like the focus on the product, it's like, well, I'd probably talk more about like drawing the viewer's eye to the product, in a natural way, or it's like making things, it depends, kind of what the tone of the photograph or the mood should be, but it's like making it feel either natural or stylized, or if it's cool, it's like using the language to like get at the feelings and the why, so it's not just we're gonna literally everybody, the goal is we want to make the product look great. That's just like the underlying goal, and then you're just like, well, why, how, why is it going to be interesting, why is this going to make somebody stop and look at this image as opposed to keep scrolling through my feed or whatever, how do we grab the eyeball and kind of keep it for a second?
Yeah.
I love it. Scott, how much do you charge?
Oh, it depends kind of on the scope of the project. Usually I'm more like a day rate, and it kind of, I have to look at, whatever the creative is to estimate it out. But usually it's between, like 500 and 700, for a, like a 10-hour day. And it kind of depends how long it's going to take, what's involved, if it's going to take several days or there's going to be revisions or whatever, so it's usually in that range.
Put Scott on the spot with his rates.
Money well spent, though.
I know,
Money,
right?
Absolutely.
If it's a
Yep.
job you want to get.
Yep.
Yeah, and I work with visual designers as well, so it's like I'm doing the writing, and then I turn that over to if it's a photographer and they do the layouts themselves, or sometimes it's working with another visual person, and we're all going back and forth, to the thing. So yeah, it's like it's an investment, to get the job and make it, and a lot of the times, time, there's a time crunch, and that's why more people on deck, more hands on deck to make it good and do it fast, do a quick turnaround, so that's especially I do a lot of comedy, and that's it's writing and writing and writing and rewriting, and it's hard and it's very time intensive, and so
And then you know what, working with you even once can help them write their template.
Yep.
Sure, yeah, kind of, yeah, see yeah, what somebody would do with it, and then sort of apply that and go back in, and yeah,
Use that. If a photographer wants to write it themselves, or they need to, what are the questions you suggest they ask themselves? Any tips for them on how to bring out their own words?
I would say, yeah, I would say start with the kind of the structure, and it's like the same thing with the structure with the layout is, I structure things just logically, like what the workflow is going to be, and just really start by like writing your headers, all the sections that you want to touch on, and and just start fleshing them out. And if you've the things you've talked with the the client about, you start adding the sentences in there and just building it, and I would sort of start there with just like overall structure. And I always start sort of big picture, like we said, intro, approach, and then you sort of get down into the very specific topics, and then at the end you sort of just wrap it all up.
Very good.
We have a question from our audience. It just came in. What if I can't record the creative call? How does the photographer share the information with Scott?
I mean,
Well, you know, there's
a
Zoom
real-
calls now, so you can record
Yeah.
it. You know, I could just be over here, record.
yeah,
Nobody.
or just buying like a cheap like digital recorder or something, just to have on the call. And I mean, making sure that, I don't know if that was a question about they're not
Yeah.
allowed to record the call,
Right.
or
I don't know,
or just making sure that like everybody knows that the call is being recorded. Most of the time, whatever, listening to a conference call, it's just a big chime that's like, this call is recorded, or whatever,
Gotcha.
because everybody needs to go back and re-refer to them. But if you're not able to, I would say just having somebody take very specific notes. I mean, because just so much gets lost, just the amount of time
Yeah.
after you get off the phone call. If you don't have notes, then you just sort of like forget, and then it's harder for somebody like me to like come in there and sort of understand what you talked about. And I've done it before, and I've just riffed on like just making it all up and making it sound good, based off of whatever the creative is. And and we've won jobs that way, but it's hard. I would
It's
say
harder.
yeah.
It's
Yeah, I
harder for
would
someone
just,
else to remember.
yeah, we just like start the meeting and say I'm recording this because I don't want to lose any details or any golden nuggets,
Right.
and let them know. So
We have another question from Christian. How much money should photographers be spending on treatments, writing, and design? Mary, what do you think?
That's a really varied answer, because I think for the most part, it's run the gamut. We've had people spend a lot of money on great design from their logo all the way through to their treatments, because some photographers now, when they get their logo designed, will flesh out everything. They're like, what are its uses on Instagram, on social, on my treatments, on every page, on my estimates, because your branding is supposed to carry through all of these elements. So depends on if you're getting a really robust design to really apply to everything. But for a treatment alone, I mean, it can be anywhere from $500 to a couple $1,000s. It just depends on what you're looking for. I know some people who will get a master treatment built, and by that I mean they'll make a really robust treatment that covers everything, and they can add and subtract pages as they need to, depending on the client needs.
And that'll save you time,
Yeah.
your own time, which is money.
Yeah,
That's right.
exactly.
Which
So
actually leads me into this next question. Hugh and I did a Clubhouse pre-chat yesterday, and really smart. This photographer, Stephanie, brought up the topic of how photographers are not paid for their time and sharing their ideas in their treatments. That really is a bit whacked, but I don't see how we'd ever change that,
I mean, I certainly don't know how to get payment for that sort of thing if you don't get the job. But one of the things that we try to do in our estimates is to put in creative development in our estimates. So it's not just prep time, but creative development, which would include these treatments. The treatments, just all of the forethought that goes into these shoots before you ever even get into production.
Yeah.
if
That's
you get
great.
the job.
If you get the job, yeah. If you don't get the job, I don't know how we're getting that linear time back.
Yeah, Hugh,
Well,
you said your lawyer mentioned it.
Yeah. But I have a friend who's a lawyer. I told him I have to write treatments. It takes 3 days, and he just goes, "You're not getting paid for that? I get paid at $150 an hour at least." But that segues into my next question. Okay, you're writing this treatment. You're revealing ideas. You're maybe even giving them ideas for their visuals. Should they be having the agency and client sign an NDA? And how many times, I've certainly experienced this before, my ideas have been picked up by that client and used in the campaign by another photographer.
Yeah, we've certainly had that happen. And I really don't know the right answer to that, because I think that, obviously we're being asked to sign NDAs all the time to review their creative. And I think that, just something as simple as like the sample I showed, putting the copyright symbol at the bottom, I mean, is kind of the best we're doing at the moment. But we have had people rip ideas straight off the page, and then it's in the campaign that we did not get. And that hurts.
I think that's what keeps photographers resisting these treatments. I don't want to give my ideas.
Yeah. Doing them
hire me and I'll give my ideas.
Yeah.
But then they don't get the job.
Yeah, I think, and you guys can speak to this better than I can, because my whole thing is just pitching ideas, is kind of what I do. And there is an element of, yeah, there's a sweepstakes, element to it when you're pitching against other people. It's also, it's being generous with your ideas, and, striking that balance in your treatment. With photographers, it might be a little bit different, but, how specific you're getting, how much of the technical, it's like when you have schematics and things like that, like that's getting pretty technical and pretty, somebody could rip it off, but it also might be exactly what somebody else might do. There's me personally, it's like I just try to be generous with my ideas. I'm generous with my ideas, with directors or whatever. It's like, everybody's just putting it out there. I know, big name, directors, that I work with, they're writing treatments and they're putting ideas out there, and, I've seen, stuff get ripped off. But, it's just kind of the cost of doing business. It's like, if you want to, pitch, and be in it, you got to run that risk. But, I think you're developing those relationships, even if you don't get the job. You're, having that mentality of, my ideas are not scarce. I have, creativity kind of inspires creativity, giving your ideas, being very specific, about your vision. And,
well,
and
yeah, oh God, sorry.
no, I was going to say, it's just, that sometimes you're going to get ripped off, but, if you make a compelling argument why you're the person to achieve that thing or that idea, even if you don't get that job, and, they take that idea and it goes to another photographer, maybe it's not all that they hoped, and they come back to you, or whatever. It's like, you never know. I mean,
Right.
you just, you never know.
That's what I was going to say. At the end of the day, it still has to be executed. The person still has to do it. So, yeah, I think that we always talk about that. You can't copyright an idea, but the execution of the idea is where it's at. So I think that they'll still have to execute the idea. So I'm of the mind of putting the ideas out there. But I feel the pain. I understand the pain point.
The other point about the agency too is they're pitching to get the client, so they're revealing ideas also on their end. They're used to writing treatments. They're used to spending, loads of money to gain a client. So, I take that into consideration when I'm, writing a treatment for free, or, giving my ideas away. It's just part of I guess it's part of the mechanism of advertising, I imagine, so.
I have a quick question for you, Mary. Some photographers I noticed put the estimate in the treatment. Do you ever do that?
We've done that a couple of times. I feel like I'm trying to think of the scenario when that's appropriate. I think that when we're triple bidding, we might do that when it's very specifically a triple bid. But there's only been a couple of instances where we've done that, where we've put it in the treatment. But for the most part, we do keep it separate. I feel like, I don't know if it's common to put it in with the treatment, but we usually keep it separate, but we have put it in a couple of times.
Yeah. We have a question from Courtney. Do the creatives actually read the content or just view images?
Well, we're hoping they're reading it, because the whole purpose of it is to differentiate it from the website, or, the visuals we already have going for us, right? It's not just a curation of relevant images, it is the approach. So I would hope they're reading it. I think for the most part, I think, yes, they are reading it.
Yeah. And, there's definitely an element of, they could gloss over it. You're in bad shape. If I look at like a wall of text when I'm looking through a treatment or whatever, like my eyes roll back in my head, and you could expect that from creatives as well, and that's why the importance of like overall layout, and just like how your text falls on the page and your sentences are broken up, and, just not assaulting people with just pages and pages of text. That, it's all a part of it, just to keep them engaged.
Right. That's our point.
And that goes back to the point of keeping it conversational versus, no one wants to read a novel.
Yeah, true. Or be sold to.
Yes.
Be sold. How long should it be? What do we think?
Well, actually, I don't know, Scott, you probably can answer that better than I can. I feel like ours are pretty short in the grand scheme of treatments, but.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to just the scope of what you're doing. I think the example that you gave, like for what that needed to be, yeah, it's like give or take a few pages, more, a little more explanation, or, you know, yeah, it's hard to say. I've done treatments that are, 10 pages and, 120 pages, they're just like full of images and things like that. So yeah, it kind of is a range.
I like the 10-page for photographers, that around 10 pages.
Yeah, I think even the sample I showed was 17, and that included a cover page, a closing page, a bio page. So sandwiched in between there was probably like 10 to 12 pages of content.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's 10. Yeah, they're flipping some of those pages pretty quickly. It's like you can kind of take in the images. Maybe you have like a few short sentences on a page or whatever. So the read is quick, and that should kind of be the goal, is to like make it a fun, quick read.
Well, here's some information I got in about the agency side. So I got 3 comments quickly. Realize that when agencies pitch an account, they have clients sign a contract concerning who owns the IP presented. And another one was, at times clients are being paid to pitch. And the last one is, and they do not blithely allow their IP to be utilized without payment. All right. So I go back to signing an NDA, man. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I think I had one time in my career where a client direct presented us a deck, and at the bottom of it, it had an agency's name on it. And it didn't occur to me until we really got in the weeds on the project. And I was like, wait a minute, do you have the rights to this creative? I just realized an agency created this deck, and then the client was presenting it to us to execute. And I finally found out they did pay for it. So yes, they had the right to it, but it occurred to me, wow, I should be asking if they have the right to this creative.
Wow.
Interesting.
And I'm glad I asked, and they did. But
I have a question from Peter. What are ethics of using other people's work in treatment, for example, hair makeup stylist references? And I guess, Mary, you did address that.
yeah, just, I mean, other images for style, if it's strictly, if it's a mood board. I think if you're showing that you have an understanding of the type of hair and makeup, say, client is going for in the talent, I think pulling that as swipe or as a mood board is okay. Just as long as it's clear that's not work you're claiming as your own. I think if it's a mood board and like, hey, this is what we're going for, and you can even say assembled from, several samples,
We're almost out of time. Oh my God. Okay. Kevin Steele, photographer, asked, what is the most creative and impactful treatment you have seen? And I'll answer one of that. For me, Paul Barchon was up for a car job, and he hired a storyboarder. So we had storyboarding in the treatment, which cost him money, but he got the job. Like, he went the extra mile. Anything like that?
Well, I have a question. When you're showing, if you're pitching part of motion, right? So how do you include that into your treatment? I know Keynote allows for video. Are there other programs that you guys use to enable?
Yeah, I mean, we use Google Slide a lot. If you wanted to play within the presentation, I definitely think you need to have a platform that allows that. And Google Slides does that. I think Keynote does that if you export it as don't you have to export it as a movie file or as an MP4?
I'm not sure. Anyway.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I know in InDesign, yeah, I've seen some use InDesign as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Good one. I'm going to keep jumping. When we use Google images that are not ours. Oh, we asked that from Craig. Treatment for a low budget job? Craig asked. I mean, should we always do a treatment?
We're almost always doing a treatment of some sort. Sometimes it can be small, just really straight up approach and some work samples, because you might have an amazing website, but if you really want to just target the creative that's being presented to you, you can make a quick little deck of images, intro about yourself, I'm excited about your concepts, and that's it. Doesn't have to be the more robust deep dive into the lighting and all that stuff. Maybe it's just a small one, but we almost always send something visual.
It's definitely worth the time. Evie asks, do you see trends in photo treatments? How have they changed in the last few years?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've definitely gotten better tools over the years for the treatments. I mean, being able to use something shareable like Google Slides and these presentable things are great. I know that when she and I spoke about that, we were talking about how have treatments changed since before there were treatments. Like, what did we do before there were treatments, and how have they come along? And I think that definitely it's just more a trend that photographers are doing them, because this really used to be a video director, a director
Yeah, that's right.
thing. So we're being asked to do it. So that's a big change. And there are lots of things, creative things people are doing with their treatments, which I think are fantastic, just to stand out. Some of that is having the stuff play, within the
Yep.
deck. I've seen people voice over their own
Wow,
decks. There's some fun stuff people are doing with their treatments.
that's good.
That is good. I always suggest bringing out the branding of the client. Like, how much research and what about our researching the client should we bring into the treatment? Like, do we want to get their branding? Oh, I get your high energy product.
I
Like,
think
how,
I think without beating them over the head. Yeah, I think that, so they have confidence that you understand their perspective, even if it's as simple as, oh, wow, you know what, their demographic is kind of millennial and it's this and not that. It might inform your word choices, your color
Yeah.
choices, their branding might inform your color choices, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
I absolutely do. I do the research, yeah, on my own. Yeah, just looking into the brand, looking at the language that they use to describe, their brand. Yeah, and even if it's not literally what they say, kind of filtering in that and keeping that in mind for the tone of it.
yeah, the tone, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah.
Fantastic.
we have a question. Do you think shooting tests and spec should be included into the treatment?
I think if you don't have something, if you know you can execute what they are going for and you don't have a ton of what they're looking for, I think, yeah. I mean, I think if you can, we've definitely shot things for our treatments before so that we could get more on target with, specific composition or something that they're looking for.
Yeah, I've done that before, and I've actually included my retoucher who did a test and actually recreated what the visual was for digitally, and a quick mock-up, but it was just to show that this can be done by my team. And, they volunteered and gave us that work for us, because we're all in it together. So it worked out
And
really
it
well.
probably showed a lot about who you are
Yeah.
just by doing that.
Yep.
How long do treatments take photographers? How long should they take?
I like what Scott said earlier about they could be an hour versus 12 hours. But I think it is a skill. It's like anything else, getting the hang of doing them. I think the more you do them, the better you get, the faster it comes to you. Yeah, but I do think everyone has to make that initial investment of, all right, I'm going to sit down with my thoughts, see how long I want this thing to be, and be able to expand and contract it per client need, But I think the more you do them, the faster it goes.
Hugh, how long does it take you?
Days, but they do. And the reason why is because I write some and I walk away from it. I write some and I walk away from it. And I've gotten faster, but I think what really works out for me is to have that structure, to have that template, to have that outline, so that I know, okay, I'm going to start here, because there's so much going on in my head about how I want this to come across and all that's included. It's a little hard to keep my thoughts and organized. So that template, that outline is very important for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have just two or three questions left, and then that's it. Scott, why is it so hard to find treatment writers?
We're all introverts, I'm guessing. It's like that's hard for me to answer because I don't work with any other treatment writers. It's like it's just me. I know that they exist, and I know some names and people that I've rewritten people, and people have rewritten. We've done punch-ups on each other's work and that stuff. Some companies have in-house people that they use. I think it's, we are, like you said, ghosts, ghost writers technically. So people don't necessarily like sharing or, whatever. All my work comes from like word of mouth, directors passing my name along, or production companies, executives and stuff like that. So it's, yeah, I'm not a member of any group or anything like that. It's just, and I fell into it myself, and it's, and I love doing it. So it's a weird niche little world.
I think that's so right, because photographers don't want to share their treatments. So they're not going to share. Maybe they do have writers and we just don't know about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very likely.
I'm glad we
Writers,
found you. Yeah.
writers need to get on social media more often, Scott.
I'm working all the time.
Yeah, look out, Scott.
The
You're
last
about
thing
to-
I want to do is write a witty post.
You're gonna get a ton of emails after this.
Yeah.
Do we have any suggestions for photographers who are not getting the jobs after they are submitting treatments?
Mm.
Any golden nuggets for them?
I mean, we try to ask the clients for feedback. I know that's always hard to get sometimes, because they just deep dive right into the project, and it's hard for them to take time to sit down and give you an overview of what you didn't do right. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's just looking at what you've done and continuing to refine it. I guess you have got to have some baseline, though. I don't know. Do you ever get feedback, Scott, on your treatments?
I mean, usually the feedback, the positive feedback that I get is, when jobs award, or, I hear that people have, oh, they really love the treatment, or the treatment is the thing that put the job over the mark, sort of thing that kind of won the job. That's when I feel really good about it. That's really good feedback. I would say it is getting better at your writing, or your layouts, taking a look at your layouts and just making sure that it's, it's grabbing attention, and it's engaging people, and it's, fun to read. It's entertaining to read. It is your voice. And, if something's not working, looking at it and just being like, well, can I maybe I'll just kick things off more personal, or maybe I'll kick it off in a different way. Maybe I'll start, a different way, and just, gauge the response, as long as you're still being clear about the execution and all that. Figuring out some different stylistic things maybe you could try, maybe it is too wordy, maybe it's not wordy enough, maybe yeah, hiring a treatment writer, see what they do, and see if that moves the needle a little bit more, or gives you some insight, and then you take that and go back and rework it how yeah, I would say it's going to be a process of, unfortunately, maybe becoming a better writer or a better judge, objective judge of the work, and just say, like, looking at your stuff and looking at what is getting a better response, and maybe changing things up, and like see if that works, or whatever, and then just constantly refining it until you feel like it's a good representation of who you are, your style, your voice, your personality.
I would say even don't wait till you have to do the treatment and you're like, oh God, oh my God, I got to hurry up and do this. Don't wait for those stressful moments. Do this when you have time. Like, hire Scott now to help your, and then you can use those words when you're not so stressed out. Except there is a problem. Like, if you're not getting jobs from treatments, your treatments needs to get improved. So do it now.
Well,
Yeah,
even
I would
starting
agree
out,
with that.
starting out, I would bounce it off of a writer friend, or my agent would help me out with wordsmithing, or, even my daughter, who is completely unfiltered, completely, and she has some amazing points. So anyway,
Yeah.
will Scott be sharing his contact info?
At Scott Rickles.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. DM me through Instagram. Yeah, there's not. I'll check it. I'll check it and look at the stuff.
Okay.
You can
Hit him up on the DM.
If you have a project that's coming up or something like that. Yeah, we can talk.
And it's at Scott Rickles. Period.
Any final comments or words of wisdom you two care to share with us? Anything we didn't touch on that you want to?
No, but I saw someone wrote in the Q&A, they had written, if a PDF was that professional way to share treatments? And I would say yes, absolutely. Especially if you don't have any motion in it, make sure if there are things to link out, it should link out. You can still hyperlink
Yeah.
within a
Yeah.
PDF. My advice is to not save it down so that you don't lose any quality, especially in your images, to instead share it as a link. So if you have Dropbox, still share it as a link if it's a PDF, because the email filter and spam stuff might kick it out of people's inboxes before they can get it. So that's
Yeah,
what
don't delete that quality or minimize that quality. That's a great point.
yeah, because to
Good.
get it, small enough to email, you might diminish some of the quality.
The other thing I can recommend if you're sharing over Zoom is to send them the link on their end. They can look at it on their screen, because if you share your screen through to them, sometimes that quality gets depleted. So that's another way of doing it.
Good one.
Yeah.
Scott, any last moments of wisdom here?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, it's like writing, it's a process, and it's hard, and it doesn't come naturally to, a lot of people. It didn't come naturally to me, either, in the beginning. And it's just like, constantly working at it and getting better. And, it just makes your communication that much more effective. So, it is an investment in time, and just being willing to do it among all the other many hats that you have to wear.
Right. I have one final question today that's a bit random. So much of our business is unpredictable. If a photographer is getting started or is approaching their next phase of their career and they feel really lost right now, what advice would we all give them?
Yeah, I guess it depends on what that sticking point is, but I mean, obviously we have wonderful consultants in our industry, and reps sometimes do this as well. Sometimes it just might be time to get another opinion, so that about your work, or at least talk through what your pain points are. Someone can help you in the right direction.
Love
Great
that.
photo consultants. I think Amy Cooper is on here somewhere. She's amazing.
Julie Skarwecki and Amy Cooper there.
Yeah, Julie
yeah.
too.
So helpful.
Yeah.
Another one I would say is take a step back and remember what got you here. What do you love about photography? Remember that feeling of why you were so driven. We get so caught up in our heads with the business and, oh, we didn't get that job. We didn't get that job. Oh, I see that from Shelley. Talk to other photographers. That's great. One-on-one.
I can't stress that enough. It's something that in our agency we've encouraged so much. I really love when the photographers talk to each other. Your peers are really great sounding boards.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can recommend that, but I also think you should, communicate with the winners too. Who's, because I like to complain about the industry, and so do my colleagues. And if I'm in that soup, it's like, it's going to pull me down. And, so I want to, be around someone that's actually, working and doing well, and talk to them about that. And as far as like your work is concerned, you're stuck. The thing that I just like what you were saying, Andrea, is that check in with your heart. Is this feeling good? Are you feeling 100% behind it? And check in and find that play again, that joy. I think that's super important. Super important.
Scott,
Yeah.
any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's the same, all of that, and just finding those ways that you can kind of replenish your batteries, when you're just kind of feeling empty. It's like, creatively, the things that may not even have to do with photography that's going to kind of inspire you. Sometimes, yeah, you do have to kind of put something down, walk away, get your inspiration, and it'll spark and kind of flow from there.
Yeah. And look, life has happened to all of us this past year. So I can't imagine there are tons of people feeling stuck and what do I do? And yeah, it's been a tough year. So definitely do all of the things. Talk to your peers, take a beat, get some outside insight.
Yes. Yeah. Get away from it.
Mary, they should all do what we do every Friday.
Yeah. It's been awesome. Our weekly chat.
Our weekly chat with Tracy from Poppy Creative. We have to support her too.
Absolutely.
Oh, so we are out of time. Mary, Scott, Hugh, thank you so much for doing this. I loved it. I got a lot out of this.
Oh my God. This is so packed. Crazy.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Yeah,
so much, you guys.
thanks for having me.
It's gonna be,
We-
I'll be in touch, Scott.
Okay.
we all will.
Okay, please do.
We-
Please do.
We will be taking next month off from this webinar, but we'll be back for June. Make sure to follow APA LA and Ask Stern Rep on Instagram. And of course, you too, Mary. Follow Big Leo and Scott Rickles. Sorry. Okay. And Hugh. Okay. Okay. And join APA's mailing list, APA LA's mailing list, so you won't miss out on upcoming episodes. Right, Hugh?
Yep,
Yes.
absolutely. Sure. I'm just watching all the thank yous coming in. It's unbelievable. Everyone's just like over the moon about this. So thank you guys so
Well,
much.
Thank you for having us. It was informative for us too.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Hugh, you want to talk about we're going to have this rap chat. So
Yeah, we
Stay
have
tuned for
Benjamin
that.
Grimes coming in from Sammy's camera. He's going to talk about what's going on in that end of it. And I think it's a great gauge because when I go into Sammy's and I go to the rental department, the first words out of my mouth are, how's business? And that is
Yeah.
true. It's the barometer. So,
And everyone should be joining APA, right?
please do. We're all about, community, inclusion. We get together on a monthly basis and talk about this stuff, and it's all about you. And so join the conversation.
And that's
Thank
a
you.
way to talk to others. Be a
That's
part of
right.
the group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Thank you both, Scott and Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks you guys so much. Really good.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Talk to you
Okay.
soon. Talk to you Friday.
Talk to you Friday. Oh, Hugh, that was good.
That was so much. I'm going to be playing this a lot because I
Yeah.
want all that, that template that Mary showed and
Yeah.
listening to,
Yeah.
talk to him about how he writes and everything was great. It was great.
Oh.
So
Let's bring our special guest on. Can he join us? Is it Benjamin Grimes. We're going to talk about Sammy's and check in on the pulse of the market right now. Are people busy? Are people busy?
yeah, they, last I was in there, they're saying that things are picking up again. So hopefully.
Well, if he's not joining us, let's talk about this. How was this for you? It was packed.
No, it was very packed. It's an evolving target, I think, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and more important. And just to hear what and see what people are doing these days,
Yeah.
the approach is great. Oh, there he is.
Hi, Benjamin.
Yes.
Hey, Benjamin.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey guys.
Thanks for
coming
joining
on.
our rap chat.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of enjoying the conversation today as well. So cool. This is really, really fun to be part of. So
Yeah.
I'm actually here at our Fairfax office. I work here on the 4th floor. So we do kind of our really our pro sales. So any of our clients that are kind of working in imaging, cinematography and photography, digital technicians, lighting technicians, we kind of look for them to partner with us on the 4th floor because it's really where we spearhead the professional level equipment. And we have sales associates that are kind of go-to people for anybody working in imaging professionally, which really any of your membership should probably be engaging with our pro sales department if they have the desire to learn more about kind of what these industry standards are and what their colleagues have been doing. Hugh, I like that you mentioned kind of Sammy's rental asking if they're busy as a barometer. If I pick up the phone in my office and a client says, I'm not busy right now I'm telling them you will be, because we are so busy with our production studios, our rental houses, our owner operators, and our image makers needing equipment right now. So I know that this kind of stamina is back in the industry, and everybody's going to be okay.
Thank God.
Yeah.
When did you get busy, Benjamin? I assume it was slow and then picked up.
So in our office here on the 4th floor, we weren't closed that long. We were actually only completely shut down for about a month and a half. And we started curbside delivery and things where, so many of the APA members were, calling us directly, and we were bringing out equipment and letting them fly through the parking lot so they could, practice these new styles of production. And then we opened up to walk-in business about, now it's 6 months.
Yeah.
where we limit our capacity. We have a lot of precautions here in the store, but just make it as safe and comfortable an environment to come in, but try to do as much as possible to maintain that what people like about coming here, getting hands-on kind of advice and seeing the new technology. And really this last year, it's been a privilege to work here because I've been part of so many of the conversations about using what we do, which is selling equipment and imaging technology to deal with the new restrictions of what's happening on set right now. What we're doing right now with this video chat, so many of us are engaging with clientele with video conferencing, and there's ways to do it just with what most people do with an eyesight camera, but we're image makers, so we think at Sammy's that if we can step up that first impression, kind of fill in the gap of some of that lost connection by having exceptional image quality, phenomenal audio, and start to show that we take imagery, seriously with things like remote capture. That's something we're doing every day, is talking to people about that and taking that equipment and technology forward onto set so that we can minimize the number of bodies on a set, but not limit that client feedback, giving people remote access to see styling assets as they're created, make kind of critique over what's happening creatively using things like remote cameras, video streaming, monitors that are dispersed just to keep crowds from gathering at the traditional DIT and Digitech station. So I really want to make sure that the membership know that we've really been working closely with the lead Digitechs, DITs, who the kind of responsibility seems to have fallen on to figure out these solutions on set and kind of configure, integrate all the different components to make those systems really work. So we're really eager to have those conversations and just share that information with everyone.
Well, that's
That
awesome.
is so important. And I think it really can help you get a job or not
Yeah.
work with the client again if you don't do it right. Like, that is really important right now.
I have a question for Benjamin. Benjamin, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but do you think now that we've all had a taste of doing this remotely, it's going to become more of a norm? Not the end all, but more of a norm in our industry now.
That's a great question. I genuinely believe that the technologies that we've sort of innovated and tested right now, a lot of them are going to become standard. Just to think about the travel cost of bringing so many people on the creative team on set and just the energy expelled to be flying all over the place, when now we can have similar results with people remotely monitoring sets, I think is an incredible thing. I had the pleasure of working with John Russo, a gentleman that I actually used to Digitech for. And when we were locked down, I did a fair amount of DIT work. And we recently did a shoot where we were in a hotel here in Los Angeles, and we had a celebrity on site in New York, and we remotely accessed the camera. His assistant moved it around, remotely controlled the light levels. We remotely reviewed the image quality. He fired the camera from a keyboard in a hotel room with high-speed internet. And at the end of the shoot, we had a great experience. We really had great imagery from that shoot. And the client had a big monitor with John's face right in front of them above the camera the whole day. So they felt like they had the kind of lighthearted conversation that he uses to bring out kind of expressions. And he said, I could do 5 of these today. Just the expenditure on his part, coming in and having this kind of system ready for him, he really just got to go straight to the client, worry about his imagery, have that connection and shoot, and then he was done. He wasn't he wasn't on his knees with the camera and moving the light and showing up at first call. He came in right when it was time to start talking to the client, and I think that's something to be valued. I mean, his vision, the important part of him being there, could be applied to maybe 3 shoots in a day because he's not going to have to burn himself out. So, I mean, we are learning, I think, some benefits from bringing these technologies on set when it works. And I don't think it's right for everything.
Yeah,
I think
photographers have to know this now. They have to. You have to.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
do. The other unmentionable was the climate change thing. I mean, if people are flying all over the country, I mean, that's just going to help.
Yeah.
So I just want to throw that in because climate change is really close to my heart. All right.
I've been thinking the same thing. I mean, I think maybe it's in my head, but we hope there's a little less pollution in Los Angeles during the pandemic. That was sort of one thing we noticed, and not having as
Yep.
much air commuting would be a great thing. And it's more time with your probably loved ones and family, and you don't have to be on the road, so not all
Yeah.
bad.
Benjamin, I have a question. Can photographers who don't know or they want to learn stuff, can they come to you and say, please teach me about this
Yeah.
camera?
Here in the store, a lot of what we're doing, it's you come in with sort of a pain point or a production that you need to accomplish, and we talk in by means of equipment about what we could kind of bring to it. And we work in rentals and we work in equipment sales, so our goal is to kind of build a relationship that helps us stay in business through that. But I mean, information sharing is what we really do. It's not just I want to buy XYZ product, it's I need to do this on set. And that's what our key customers know about us, is that we're here to kind of tell them what we know works and what doesn't. Also from working with their talented competition. I mean, we're in all the studios in Hollywood and we're not sharing any trade secrets, but we learn very quickly kind of what industry standards are as they develop.
Fantastic. So good.
Thank you for sponsoring APA.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's a pleasure. And I do want to mention too, a lot of APA members, I think, they forget about the fact that we have a rental discount for all APA membership. And it's a really good value. Are you taking advantage of that, Hugh?
Oh yeah, 20%, right?
Yeah. So I mean, that doesn't have an asterisk about how much equipment you're taking. That could be an incredibly
Yeah.
large equipment package. So that's a way to
That's-
kind of reduce your overhead.
It's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, 20%. When I know these costs are huge, are really.
Sometimes I don't let the client know that I'm getting the 20% off.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Anybody that's an APA member too, I really do invite you to come up to the 4th floor of the Fairfax office. It's where we have kind of the pro sales team. You're going to look around and see certain product categories on display, but that's not really what we're doing. We're here for anybody working professionally. And we want to know if you're an APA member, because that does mean something to us. The APA is a great organization, and we want to do everything we can, especially to help APA membership.
Well, David Robin, my fellow board member, wrote and said APA LA is working with Benjamin to create workshops in the near future. You want to talk about that?
We're looking at doing some things this year that we're pretty excited about. Starting out, we're going to do something on LED lighting, and just sort of kind of a 10,000 foot view about what's going on in the industry and kind of how to wrap your head around it. And we're bringing new lighting technologies in the place of traditional technologies can maybe benefit you. So we're talking to some of our vendors actually that are going to be kind of technical experts to have a conversation soon, and a couple more things that we're thinking about right now. Some of the really kind of just talking about technology and these trends, just having, kind of laid back conversations about what we're noticing in the industry, so people can kind of learn something from that standpoint.
Wow.
But yeah, again, I want to reiterate the invitation to kind of come into Sammy's if you're interested in any of the, obviously any camera technology, but the very of the now conversation of remote shooting, wireless cameras, how to turn, a camera like this that you might use in your normal work into a way to kind of stand out in a video conference. We have all these little bits and things, and we can talk about how they work together.
So good. Thanks for joining our wrap chat.
Yeah, thanks, Benjamin.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Huge information. So awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Thank you. We'll talk again, I hope.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Bye, Benjamin.
Bye, Benjamin. Hugh, should we say goodbye to each other?
Yeah, I guess it's going to be a little while before we see each other again. But
We'll take you 1 month off. Don't go crazy.
good. It was great. This was a really jam-packed. To let everyone know, there was a lot of information. We are recording this. It's going to go up on YouTube in a couple of days, so you can go back to it. And again, I just really appreciate everyone that showed up today, our esteemed guests, and of course you, Andrea. I love doing things.
And Patty. Let's thank Patty.
Oh, there's Patty. Patty, you want to come on for a second?
Yeah, Patty, come on.
Come on. There she is.
Oh, we can't hear you. You're muted.
Yeah,
There you
my
go.
There you are.
self view. I have to show self view. There I am.
There, we see you.
Good.
Yeah, but the attendees didn't. this was fabulous and it was jam packed. I mean,
It still is. We're still going.
yeah, no, here we are. We're jamming it even more.
Everyone who why, Patty, why should people join APA? Just give me an answer. Why?
For things like this, there's amazing information and resources and support and advocacy, and it just goes on, and it's about the photo community
And the community. I love that.
The
You need people to talk to. You're like in it
Really is.
together.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really, really is. As a photographer, I know I'm an isolator. We all are. We work in our own little worlds. And this just brings us together to have a conversation about what's going on, you know? So it's very, very helpful.
And I feel like it's a way to bring up the business. Like, let's all do things. Like you guys have a diversity committee, right? Like you're addressing issues and you're raising the bars.
We're staying up on it all.
Yeah.
For sure, because you have to stay present. You have to be seeing what's going on around.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great one. I would join, but I'm already here.
Well, that's why I mean, when I was invited to be a board member, I'm like, I get to help shape, the information that we're giving out. And we talk a lot, Patty, I mean, those conversations, we talk a lot about what we're bringing to everyone. And it's a lot. I'm grateful to be part of that. So.
Me too. And just working with you two, it's been amazing. And I'm learning so much from these webinars. It really is. Plus you two are just very fun.
We are so fun, Hugh. Well,
Okay.
All right, it's lunchtime.
see you in June,
Lunchtime.
everybody.
Bye. Thank you. Love you
Bye
both.
for now.
All right. Bye.
Wait.
Bye, Andrea.
Oh,
Oh, yes.
bye.
Bye.
Bye.